2010 marks the 100th anniversary of the death of Samuel Clemens, better known as Mark Twain, America's most beloved humorist and author. In honor of the anniversary, the U.S. Embassy in Kyiv decided to invite Mark Twain back to this part of the world and to retrace the route Twain took in 1867 to Sevastopol, Odesa, and Kyiv. Mark Twain's observations of his travels through Europe formed the basis of his first published book, Innocents Abroad. With the help of veteran American actor Ken Richters, Mark Twain made a return journey, April 8th through 15th, on a program sponsored by the U.S. Department of State. In 1867, the steamship Quaker City, Mark Twain, and a group were anchored in Odessa. Twain loved Odessa. He wrote that he had not felt so much at home for a long time as I did when I raised the hill and stood in Odessa for the first time. It looked just like an American city, fine, broad streets. He was warmly welcomed by the city leaders then, and he was again in 2010 as the mayor of Odessa, the Honorable Edward Hurwitz, welcomed him to the city. Twain, on his first visit, admired the vast flight of stone steps that led down to the harbor, although the mayor reminded Twain that he otherwise got his history wrong in his account. Twain said that Odessa had been endowed with a sound prosperity, and one which will yet make it one of the great cities of the Old World. Ken Richters premiered his one-man show, Innocents Abroad Again, in Ukraine, with performances at the student theaters at Odessa National Miechnikov University and Odessa Ushinsky Pedagogical University, showcasing Twain's unique brand of humor, and ending each show with a round of questions. Next, on to Sevastopol. Of Sevastopol, Twain wrote, "We have been in no country yet where we have been so kindly received, and where we felt that to be Americans was sufficient visa for our passports." Today, Sevastopol was equally welcoming. In 1867, Twain's next adventure in Crimea might have been taken for a tall tale if we did not know it was true. He and his party were invited by the Russian Tsar to his home at Levadia Palace. Twain wrote that after talking with the company for half an hour, the Emperor of Russia and his family conducted us all through their mansion themselves. They made no charge. They seemed to take a real pleasure in it. We spent half an hour idling through the palace, admiring the cozy apartments and the rich but eminently homelike appointments of the place. And then the royal family bade our party a kind goodbye and proceeded to count the spoons. On this trip, Mark Twain returned to the Levadia Palace for a small performance in the music room, the room where he may have met the emperor so many years ago. Ken Richter has been touring as Mark Twain for nearly 25 years, among other work in theater and films. His performance in Ukraine, including in Simferopol and in Kyiv, allowed audiences to experience the humor and wisdom of Twain's writing in a direct way through Ken's unique approach to performance.
But I said, hell yes, whatever you want. So I was in. I was a temporary member day to day of the Cadets Attendance. Now all I had to do is be patient and wait for someone to die. So I could get me one of them handsome red scarves. He marched down the street like the President of France. I started going to everyone's house in town to see how healthy they were. Finally, I decided that old Dr. Norton was the next one to die. Well, he was old, which is probably why they called him Old Dr. Norton. So once I decided that Dr. Norton was my best chance for a funeral, I went home and got on my knees and prayed to God to kill him. Well, about a week after I started praying for him to die, they announced he was getting better. I went down to the clubhouse and I quit in disgust. And wouldn't you know it, 2 days after I quit, every damned old person in town started dropping dead like flies.
The bilingual performance employed the talents of translator Sergei Sarjevsky, who brought Twain's language alive.